The rate sensor bias. Before I'll start with the checks, I'll explain a little bit about the rate sensors. In the system we've got three, one for azimuth, one for elevation, one for cross level. All of them are located inside the sensor box. And these rate sensors, they detect the ship's motion in one of the three directions and compensate with driving the motors in the opposite direction in the same speed as the ship moves in cross level, for example. The control loops inside the system, they will calculate with 2.5 volts output on the rate sensor when there is no motion. So as soon as this 2.5 changes up or down, it knows that the system vessel is moving and it will compensate to get back to 2.5 volts. Now, although this 2.5 is a specification for the rate sensors, all rate sensors will have a certain offset. So, for example, the azimuth rate sensor will not give 2.5000 volt when not moving, but will give 2.497, something like that. And if we would not compensate for that difference, then the software would basically always try to move the antenna to 2.500, driving it off satellite. So having the rate sensors calibrated is quite crucial to the system. Now, we found that the output of the rate sensor when not moving can depend on temperature, or even will depend on temperature. And if the system was last switched on, let's say at 20 degrees Celsius, switched off, brought to a vessel somewhere near the Arctic, temperature is down to -20, so the whole system will be down to -20, then the output of the rate sensor will be different than where it was calibrated the last time. So you will need to calibrate or check the rate sensors always during a calibration. Procedure to calibrate the rate sensor is quite simple. Pressing the rate sensor bias check, and as with the tilt sensor you have to be in setup mode to do this, but I'll show you. Tilt sensor bias check, you're not in setup mode. Okay, so again I go to setup mode, press yes. Then I went to setup mode, and now I will press the rate sensor bias check button. You will see this LED turn green, and after a few seconds it will turn blue again, and we will see some changes on the numbers. Let's see. Turns green. Looking at the numbers. So they all changed. Do it again. And again. And after 3 or 4 times the numbers should become stable. They can vary a little bit, but they should not vary too much. So I'll do it again. And now you can see it went from 67 to 66, and I saw some change here as well. But they should be more or less stable after a couple of times. Sometimes this is after 2 times, sometimes you have to press it 3 times. If the numbers would keep changing all the time, so for example -64 after pressing bias check goes to +20, do it again, it goes to -180, do it again, it goes to +180, whatever. It means that the output of that rate sensor is not stable anymore. It's drifting, and it will indicate that there is something wrong with your rate sensor and you would need to replace your sensor box. So do it again. and they should not move too much. Some variation is acceptable, but it should not be like more than 10. So this is how to calibrate the rate sensors, and as I said, everything you do in setup mode needs to be followed by a restart, and restart will automatically save these settings in the firmware. And from that point, the system will auto calibrate if there is temperature changes or variations, in small variations in the sensors. So I'll press the restart. System initialize again, and after initialization it should go back to tracking if your system was calibrated.